Hi guys, this is CJ Llewellyn, and I guess the technical fairies just weren't going to be in my favor today. We tried to get in, we tried to sign in, and it just wasn't working for LlewellynCon. So what I'm going to do right now is do my presentation for you, and I know that the fabulous people over at Llewellyn are going to upload this for you. And then we're going to do a little different structure because obviously I don't have the ability for live and to chat. So if you guys have any questions about what I'm saying today, just email me. I'm going to give you my email address. Just email me, ask me any questions. I actually love talking and responding as much as I can, to you guys when you have questions about the books and everything. So I'm also going to watch my time right now as well. So I'm just looking down to see what time it is. So let's talk about chakras, the vagus nerve. That was my first book, and your soul. So one of the reasons that I kind of went back to the table and had to and really wanted to express even deeper some of the work that I did in my first book was because, and you all are going to get this because you're all Llewellyn readers, just that drive that we have within us, a light that drives us, right? And we live this balance of the spiritual versus the physical part of us. And my soapbox here is that it's not a duality. It's not spirit's good, physical is bad, because we put ourselves into these awful camps and we live this cutting ourselves off. We live a life of cutting ourselves off when we don't look at the fact that this is the tension. This is our temporary experience, right? We're living in this world. This is our temporary experience of having this human experience. But we are ultimately a light being that wants to have this experience in this world. So let me get the slideshow going here. I want to break down for you anybody who doesn't know what a vagus nerve is. It's not, I promise you, we're not going to do a biology class here. And for those who don't know or aren't certain about chakras, we're going to break that down and we're going to kind of put this whole schema together because that's what it's like. That's what I've done in my book, in Chakras, the Vagus Nerve, and Your Soul. So here I am trying to share my screen, hopefully not doing too bad of a job because you guys are seeing this is like seeing behind the curtain here. Okay, so Chakras, the vagus nerve in your soul, came out in April. Like I said, this is just wonderful for me, a little bit more of a manifesto to help people along in the world. We got a lot of stuff going on in the world, and it's hard to balance right now, regardless. But when we know that we can balance within our nervous system and help ourselves stay calm and stay safe, we're going to access more of that inner light within us. So let's talk about the vagus nerve. And you don't have to memorize any of this, but know that throughout your life, you are always experiencing this nerve. This nerve is a beautiful soul nerve that helps us manage our lives. So the vagus nerve is your largest autonomic nerve in your body. There are a few other autonomic nerves. It is part of the central nervous system. In the old days, before they, hundreds of years ago, they were calling this the wandering nerve. Vagus is Latin for wandering because it's a big wandering nerve that really just is still becoming part of the just part of the modern way of looking at the world, not just medically, but emotionally and spiritually. So this nerve stems from what we call the medulla oblongata. This is a cranial nerve 10. It's right here in just where the spine and the skull meet. This is where the vagus nerve begins. And it's a bilateral nerve. It comes down along your ears into your larynx, your pharynx, all the way down into your circulatory system, your respiratory system. This is a nerve that is automatically right now pumping my heart, helping me breathe, helping me catch breaths in between my sentences so I don't sound out of breath. It's helping me manage the tone of my voice. If I wasn't on here after I finish this, I'm going to go have some lunch. It will help me to chew. It will help me to swallow. I will be digesting my food. I am already. I'm digesting my coffee this morning without having to think about it. This is what our vagus nerve does for us. It is part of the digestive system, through the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder, the upper digestive tract, through the kidneys and the HPA axis. That's the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. That helps us to run. That helps us to get moving. That releases a lot of cortisol. Those adrenal glands are on the top of our kidneys. So that plays a huge role in our hormonal communication through our body as well. So also the vagus nerve is very much about the lower digestive branches and the ascending colon. It affects other parts of our body as well. It affects our reproductive system. It connects to, and that's in the bottom of the body, it connects to our ocular nerve. So this is a nerve that we don't have to study, but we do have to be present to, because it runs us one way or the other. And the reason is, thanks to polyvagal theory developed over the last 30 years or more by Stephen Porges, polyvagal theory has come online not just as a discussion about how our lungs breathe without us thinking, how our heart is beating, but polyvagal theory helped us get a little bit more nuanced about what this vagus nerve does for us in regards to keeping us safe and keeping us connected, because within connection is the only way that we can feel safe, right? When we are connected to community, we are connected to even our pets. We are having a moment of safety in our body, and that is when we can calm down. I'm going to break that down a little bit more here in a minute. So in the old days, when I was a trauma therapist, well, I still am a trauma therapist, but I would hear sympathetic, parasympathetic, as if somehow there was a switch in our nervous system that sympathetic kept us activated, parasympathetic shut us down. And it really seemed to be an on-off switch. And in my head, it didn't make sense. And then when I discovered polyvagal theory, everything made sense. Because within that concept, within this approach to what your vagus nerve does for you, we have a dorsal branch. That is the oldest branch of this nervous system. And that happens to help us kind of shut down into immobility. There are shutdown aspects to it, but there are also that parasympathetic calming aspect to the dorsal vagal as well. Then we have the sympathetic, right? The sympathetic, the activation. Let's get up, let's move. When it is highly activated, when we're stressed, right? We get into what we think of as fight or flight mode, right? But mobility is also very important for us to feel connected, walking with our friends, children playing out in the park. So the sympathetic has a lot to do with mobility. So dorsal, immobility, sympathetic branch, mobility. And then we have ventral, the ventral vagal branch, which is what connects to our respiratory system, what is beating our heart, what is slowing our heart rate and increasing our heart rate variability down. So in other words, we can slow our heart rate, but then it's the beats between beats that really count, because that helps just lower our blood pressure. It softens our body, softens our muscles, it softens our voice. So these three branches work, activate in ways just to keep us attuned. Are we safe? I'm a little nervous walking into this party. Ooh, feel that sympathetic engagement, but I'm going to be safe. So I'm going to continue to walk into the party. I'm just going to breathe. I'm going to meet some new people here. I'm going to be aware, right? I'm going to be a little sympathetic in getting to know people, gauging their faces. Are they smiling? Are they looking at me? How's their tone of voice? Oh, I like this person. I'm going to introduce myself and I'm going to have some conversation. And I feel more safe when I'm having this conversation with this person. And we have a lot in common, a lot of ventral going on in there as well. So again, we're living this, right? Every day of our life. And now here comes for me the spiritual essence of this. So what fuels our nervous system, right? So Arthur Avalon, I'll mention more about him in a minute, and I'll mention his book. Arthur Avalon discusses, he brought a lot of conversation about the chakras from the east to the west. discusses how some of these chakras no longer exist when the body dies, when man dies, right? There's no more essence. There's no more energetic essence within us. So this prana, right? This soul, you can use the Hellenistic version of this, our etheric light, our higher self, whatever this light is that's within us, is fueling everything in our body. It's very specifically fueling this nervous system for us, this vagus nerve. This is that what I see the tension between the human self and the spiritual self, right? Because within our human self lies that light. This light has a journey it wants to be on. Our bodies are saying, oh my gosh, wait, I don't know. I remember this. It's stored in my body. I remember the last time we did this. This is unsafe. So I'm going to pull us back. So we have that tension where our nervous system is trying to discern safety. Our soul's like, hey, there's a bigger, better, experience out there, and I want to have this experience. So this is a tension, and this is okay. And this goes to the root for me of my trauma work as well. So what are chakras? I know I'm not going to work on the assumption that everybody who's following LlewellynCon right now understands what a chakra is. So I'm just going to break them down. If you look at chakras as energy centers, which is what they are, we have hundreds of them in our body. What I'm referring to and what I write about is basically the 7 main chakras, and we're going to get into this here. The ancient yogis described them as wheels, spinning wheels of light force that express a sort of physical, right, emotional, spiritual journey within us. There's that spiritual, human, the seesaw, the balance right in there. When we get into the 20th century, we get into the late 1800s, early 1900s, the concept of chakras start really being introduced into our Western world. I say our, I know that we're talking to people from all over the world right now, but the Western world started coming online in regards to understanding what the chakras were. Arthur Avalon, who was a British judge, and oh my goodness, off the top of my head, I don't have the note in front of me. I'm trying to remember his this is Arthur Avalon was his pen name. Anyway, I might have to go. The book is like right behind me. I might have to run and get it in a minute, but hold on. So Arthur Avalon does a beautiful academic work that encompasses the thousands of years of concepts of chakras and yoga and tantric yoga. In his book, Serpents. Hold on, it's driving me crazy. I don't care. I'm going to look real quick. The Serpent Power. Sorry, just the brain just went offline on that one. So there's just a scope of academic work around Eastern practices out of his book. It's heavy reading, but it's definitely worth reading. But then we have Carl Jung coming in, right? Carl Jung, archetypal and psychological states of what these chakras are. Jung started taking us out of the psychosexual models of Freud and started bringing us into our inner selves. He did his own work. He did his own exploration, right? He came up with all sorts of concepts of the shadow self, the archetypal selves. He started exploring, by the way, he came from a long line of mediums. I think his aunt was a famous medium as well. So he had some very metaphysical aspects of him that he was pulling together, which of course I love. The Theosophists start bringing in this concept as well. C.W. Ledbetter was somebody who started doing a lot of clairvoyant work around the chakras. So here is our basis of what chakras are. This is where we start to learn about these energy centers. I'm going to break down for you in a second what the 7 main are as well, so don't worry about that. Some of the earliest written Sanskrit documents go back to the 800s. This is written, this wasn't spoken. So chakras are a connection to our etheric self, our sensitive self, call it the spiritual, the psychological. It is a way to attune to our bodies that help give us direction. So I see chakras as an extension of this vagus nerve, and I'm going to show you the alignment here in a minute. because I see the soul as driving our nervous system. It doesn't mean that we don't have these human psychological aspects of us that we need to help engage the world with, right? We do. Um, that's the tension, right? Who am I? What is this wider, higher, wiser moments that I have? And then all of a sudden I end up with this punch, this shock, this I can't move, or I'm fearful. That is very much the human experience as it presents through our nervous system and as it presents in our system to keep us safe, right? That mobility, immobility, and then that safe connection. So chakras are very generative, very receptive. And so is the vagus nerve. Stephen Porges talks about that vagal attunement is sending signals within our body, right, to our organs. By the way, our organs hold on to the same memories as our nervous system, as our vagus nerve do, in regards to old patterns, old safety patterns, right? And this comes up sometimes in our bodies. These somatic responses come up and we don't have any actual what we think of as memory of them. Explicit memory are those chronologies, those names and dates and times that we have memories of, but we also have implicit, and that's felt. And that gets a little bit more different, a little bit more complicated, I should say, because the mind wants to understand, why are we doing this? Why every time I walk into this house do I want to throw up? Or why every time I see this person, I just relax, right? There's the implicit experience as well. Again, that tension. So the vagus nerve and the chakras both have a very generative, right, and receptive pattern to them, energy pattern to them, because everything's energy. Even when you can touch it, it's still energy, right? So why don't we look at it as our nervous system is also connected as the chakras. As I started doing this work and as my first book came out about 2 years ago, people were like, well, what about the chakra system? What about the nervous system? They're one and the same. They're just different. They're one we can literally touch and one we feel, and they are both the same. They are that generating of information and pulling information into our body. It just gets more three-dimensional as it comes in through our vagus nerve. So keep that in mind so that you don't feel yourself in this battle of, is this a human experience or is this a spiritual experience? All human experiences are spiritual right now. They just are. They always have been. And we have opportunities to grow, understand, strengthen, develop, right? Become more compassionate, set more boundaries. Whatever the psychological is, it's still very much part of the spiritual. And so here is our root chakra. The root chakra is closest to the ground, right? It represents these dimensions of us as human beings. It is the chakra within our pelvis. And just take a second here and put your hand on this area of your body, right? See if you can breathe in through your nose and just pull a breath down into this region of your body. And gently be curious, non-judgmental. Just breathe into it. Maybe just do a slow rock forward. I'm assuming everybody's sitting when they're watching this. Just a slow pelvic rock forward. And now just a slow rock. Slowly, slowly, as you're touching, holding on. Go back almost as far as your tailbone. Just a slow rock forward again. Just staying curious about the experience of this. And then slow rock back. To the base of your spine. And just notice. Just notice this is your personal experience. Just stay connected to whatever the energies are sharing with you. They don't have to do a thing. They are there communicating with you in the way that you need to hear it. That's all. There's no harsh, flat, straight up outcome here. Just the experience of it. So let's do a little experiencing of our sacral chakra. Now, the sacral chakra starts connecting to the lower branches of the your digestive system. These two chakras, remember we just talked about implicit? These two chakras are not, gee, I remember when this, and this happened. These two chakras hold along with these branches of the vagus nerve, which are still very sympathetic and dorsal, immobile, mobile. These two chakras really hold a lot of energy from childhood. And sometimes that can be a little scary, right? So just go ahead again and put your hand right on that region of your sacral chakra. This represents the early patterns of how you learn to connect with others. Just breathe. Just soften, if you can, your belly. You yoga people out there, you're going to know what that means. Just soften your belly. We are so conditioned not to soften when we breathe. Just pull a breath deep down into that sacral chakra. And make space for whatever energy wants to just present itself. Befriend and be curious to this energy. And you can even notice sometimes how these energies will still kind of pattern and communicate with each other, right? They're still one and the same system. Okay. Now here comes a tricky one. Ooh, that solar plexus. The solar plexus chakra aligns with the solar plexes, the nerve endings of just up here in the lumbar spine. This is where I see this as, and you can actually look a lot of people, including Anna Dia Judith, talk about. I love how she talks about the developmental aspects of the chakras. Excuse me. These are all how we experience our early childhood memories through this sort of triangle. I'm putting my hand sort of over my rib cage right here, right below the diaphragm, that big muscle of the diaphragm. These are very childhood experiences in here. They are very connected to the earth. They're very much about how we identify with our human selves. This is not to be disconnected. It is very much to be embraced. As a trauma therapist, I will tell you, this is where a lot of healing takes place. We can feel the messages of aspects of ourselves that we can connect to as trauma therapists with your own trauma therapist to help work out through a lot of different neuro experiential models. Also, I'm a Reiki master as well, so I'm very attuned to this energy as well. Anyway, solar plexus, this is the concept of who we are as we launch out into the bigger world. Who we were in families. Were we the youngest? Were we the oldest? Were we the dad? Were we the mom? Were we, cousins in a family, a large family or a small family, an only child? This extends outward. Pull in a breath. Just keep pulling in a breath as I talk about this. And put your hand right here in the crux of your rib cage. I noticed when I was younger, launching out to the outside world, I worked for years in the media. Boy, this chakra just would burn, right? Who am I? What's my identity? What's my identity in the bigger world? It does get you up in the morning sometimes. Sometimes it's really hard to keep us sleeping because of this energy. So just hold your hand gently, your palm gently. By the way, many of you probably know, we do have energy centers. We do have chakric energy centers in our palm. So just put your favorite hand over this section of your body and just pull in a breath. You can start feeling the expansion, the heavier expansion of the diaphragm in that, right? Just pull that breath in. Welcome the energy. Welcome the messages. I always, if you notice I'm doing this, remember we were rocking earlier using our sort of pelvic rock. I find myself just naturally rocking back and forth when I do this. So this also what I'm doing right now, this is my intuitive way of just calming my nervous system, right? Just try it. When you hold your babies, when you hold the baby, you naturally start to rock, right? Because you're showing this baby through that rocking how to calm itself as you too are calming yourself. So just give yourself a little rock. Sometimes people go this way, right? This feels good too. For some reasons, even since I was having babies, I always did it this way. So just give yourself a gentle rock, back and forth, forward, back, and just notice. Breathe into this little triad, right? Ooh, this very earthly triad that we so need to help us through this world, having these human experiences, right? Okay, so now we're getting up into where we can really start to engage ventral vagal safety. This is that third branch I was sharing with you. Heart chakra. Everybody loves the heart chakra, right? And here's why. Here's why everybody loves the heart chakra. This is where, through breath, especially breath, it's usually always breath, is the way that we can start to generate safety because we are activating this part of our nervous system, our vagus nerve. If you breathe in through your nose, I really always encourage people to do this. First of all, the nose naturally filters anything floating around. I have my neighborhood cat I just saw lurking out there. I just want to make sure he doesn't chase after the birds. We breathe in through our nose. It slows everything down. It filters everything. We have this opportunity to more deeply connect to our body. So take a breath in. Notice the expansion of your lungs. And now slow breath out. I have a video on this in my website. I call this flute breathing. What this does, it's a herring brewer reflex. This exhalation, this inhalation, right? You're feeling a little sympathetic stimulation in an amazing way, right? And you're blowing out into a flute. This is calming it's calming everything in your body. It's slowing your heart rate down, which means your blood pressure is slowing because your heart rate slows, your muscles soften, right? So the blood pressure doesn't have to pound through the muscles because you're no longer sympathetically activated, or at least not in a way that's overactivated, right? The beats between beats, heart rate variability, people are starting to talk about that a lot more. That is a really good indicator that you have a lot of flexibility in this region, in this diaphragmatic region of your body. That you can go from being overly stimulated to take a breath. It was only a cat. He didn't get the bird. Right? I can go. All right, cat's gone. He's not going to eat my cute little robins and the robin babies today. Right? That helps create, the more we can activate our breath to help calm us, we get into sort of toning. It's a vagal tone in the same way we tone our muscles. When we don't stretch our muscles, we have a tendency to hurt them when we do activate them. Vagal toning is all about being able to go from sympathetic when things are safe, being able to breathe and feel more connected to your body, feel safer with your body, which also makes you safer with others. And you can attune differently with people to notice that they are safe. So let's go up to the throat chakra, which I absolutely love. The throat chakra, actually, I tell a story. I'm not going to tell it now because I'm cutting into time here. But we were talking about the bilateral branches of the vagus nerve as they come down through cranial nerve 10, right? Through your medulla oblongata, comes down on both sides of the larynx, the pharynx, helping you to chew, helping you to swallow, connecting you to your ears. Your middle ears are really important in regards to hearing safety, right? And the story that I tell is someone that I know whose chakra I saw coming up through her throat through her mouth, down through her ears. This was years ago before I started studying polyvagal theory. I was in grad school. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? We're supposed to have these tiny little circles. No, there's something more here. And in fact, Donna Eden writes about these channels. She talked years ago in some of her books about the channels of the chakras coming down. What she was referring to before polyvagal theory came on board, she was talking about these bilateral branches. So how you speak is powerful. It's spiritual, right? Our words matter, our tone matters. Keeping in a mid-range of tone helps us to be safe to others. It also helps me feel safe. If my voice was raised right now, everything in my body would be activated into sympathetic, right? I'm like, oh no, we couldn't get me online to do my class. And now I'm doing it this way. And if I was really activated, you would feel that not only in my presentation of my body language, you would be feeling that through my throat. You'd be hearing my words. So being able to activate safety in your body also helps you find that mid-range. This is why Buddhist monks chant. So humming, chanting, voo, any kind of use of your mouth, your muscles here help you to calm and activate this. Oh, wait, I went backwards. Hold on. Oh, come on. Okay, there we go. I think, okay. I had a friend of mine put these together for me. He didn't know what a vagus nerve or a chakra were before he put this together. So I'm really proud of him. So then we get into the third eye, right? This doesn't necessarily directly connect to the vagus nerve, but we start connecting into the prefrontal cortex, this higher reasoning brain. We have think of it as we have 3 layers of the cake, 3 layers of our brain. This top layer is what brings on intuitive experience, greater wisdom, holding larger concepts in here, right? We get into the higher, wiser mind here. And this connects to our ocular nerves, which are sending signals constantly to the vagus nerve. So having safety in your body allows for this to happen. Once we get into the third eye, oh, keep going backwards. Hold on. I'm not doing my Hollywood presentation of this very well. Okay. And the crown chakra, right? Once we get into this, this is our spiritual center. This is our inner wisdom. This is our ability to go in, right? If you think about the crown chakras, connecting to that, the fontanelle, remember the soft spot when we were babies, where we have the corners of our skull that are starting to solidify. This just travels all the way down through portions of the brain that connect to our cerebral spinal fluid, connects to the pineal gland. Everybody likes to talk about pineal gland, by the way, is in our brain, is gauging light, helps us to gauge. It creates a lot of melatonin in our body for sleep. Anyway, once we get into these energies here, we need to ground ourselves. What happens when we only stick up here, especially if we have trauma in our bodies, right? We don't want to feel this. We don't want to feel these activated memories. So we're going to stay up here. We can get into a real spiritual crisis in this regard. We can get really unbalanced. We do hold memories. We do hold, this is just a little trauma thread through here. We do hold flashbacks in this portion of our mind, right? And I see this when I'm working with clients who were working through a trauma target. I see these flashbacks. They shift over time. So this is really important to also activate your safety, right? Heart chakra, you hear that a lot in spiritual practices, but having to root to the ground. This ground keeps you safe. It genuinely does. Earthing, right? Earthing is one of the best things that we can do to connect. When there are no safe people around, quite literally go out and hug a tree, lay in the grass. If I have a long list of clients, I go out in my backyard and I lay down after a long day of work. I just lay down and let the earth do its thing. I don't even try. I just, what energy comes up or what energy releases itself, I just allow it to happen. So here's an overview really quick. The root chakra, very early childhood memories. Remember, implicit, solar plexus, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat chakra, third eye, getting up into the crown. This is the primary chakras because they align with our vagus nerve, because our vagus nerve is storing memories within it. It works as a data center, right? It holds on to data points. Sometimes it's holding on to data points that we experienced before before other parts of our brain around 3 years old came online to have explicit memory. So be okay with all of this. Allow for being patient. Allow for being curious. Allow for grounding. Don't run from it. Breathe through it. When it gets too much, that's when you pull in trauma therapists. That's when you pull in people that are able to, utilizing the neurobiological work that we have, these models we have, can help you process out some of these stored patterns in your body so that you don't super deactivate or highly activate. So you can find a nice window in there of, oh, I'm a little stimulated, but I'm not out of control here. Okay. I think I went a little past the marker, but that is fine. That was the good thing about me missing my class with you today. Please feel free with any questions to email me. My Llewellyn is different than Llewellyn books. I'm 2 L's up front and 1 in the middle. There are 2 L's in the front and 2 in the middle. You can just use my QR code. It'll take you to the website and you could just leave a question. And also, if you so choose, please sign up for my mailing list. These are my 2 books. Chakras, the Vagus Nerve, and the Soul just came out this past spring. And, it's about our journey. It's about our journey, our soul's journey in this planet, and how we can manage utilizing that vagus nerve, being patient with what we have in our vehicle to get us through the uncertain times. I'll stop there. Okay, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to try to, hopefully if I have an awkward sign off here, Anna will edit this in a way that I don't look too technically stupid. All right, I'll see you guys later.